Chapter 1: The Signal. In the near future, when humanity had made remarkable progress in space exploration and communications, the unexpected occurred. On a quiet spring night at the Arecibo Observatory, a group of astronomers detected a signal that would forever change the course of human history. The signal was peculiar, unlike any interference or space noise previously recorded. It had a repetitive, complex, and clearly artificial pattern. The discovery quickly spread throughout the global scientific community. Observatories around the world began picking up the same signal, confirming its authenticity and extraterrestrial origin. Scientists feverishly worked to decipher the message. Multidisciplinary teams were established, including astronomers, mathematicians, linguists, and cryptography experts. The signal seemed to contain information encoded in a universal mathematical language, suggesting an advanced intelligence behind it. While scientific laboratories buzzed with activity, governments around the world went into a panic. The most powerful nations convened emergency meetings to discuss the signal's meaning and, more crucially, how to respond. Was it a friendly greeting, a warning, or something entirely different? Uncertainty and fear spread rapidly. World leaders faced an unprecedented ethical and strategic dilemma. Responding could mean opening a channel of communication with an unknown civilization, but it could also invite unimaginable dangers. They decided to keep the signal's existence secret from the public, at least for the time being, while they assessed the potential risks and benefits. Amid this uncertainty, theories about the signal's origin and purpose proliferated. Some believed it might be an invitation to join an intergalactic community, while others feared it was the prelude to an invasion. Speculation and debate were intense. Despite the fears, human curiosity prevailed. Scientists managed to decode parts of the signal, revealing a series of complex symbols and equations. These fragments, although incomplete, seemed to be an introduction, a way to present themselves and establish a common communication base. Days turned into weeks and political and public pressures mounted. Leaks about the signal's existence began to surface, fueling conspiracy theories and panic in some sectors of society. The media, always in search of sensational stories, started spreading rumors and speculations. Finally, under growing pressure, a consortium of the world's leading nations decided to make a public announcement. In a historic press conference, world leaders confirmed the reception of the extraterrestrial signal and assured the population that it was being handled with the utmost caution. The announcement did not calm all concerns but marked the beginning of a new era. Humanity was on edge, standing on the brink of unknown possibilities. Scientists continued working day and night, driven by both hope and fear of what the signal might mean. Chapter 2: Global Tension. In a state-of-the-art laboratory in a city of the emerging nation of Syria, a group of scientists was engrossed in the monumental challenge of deciphering the extraterrestrial signal. The excitement and urgency filled the room as they worked with advanced artificial intelligence and cryptography methods. News of the significant breakthrough by the Syria team quickly spread. Using a combination of advanced algorithms and artificial intelligence techniques, they identified a pattern in the signal that allowed them to begin deciphering its content. The message contained a series of mathematical equations and symbols that seemed to be a form of intelligent communication. The achievement sparked a wave of reactions worldwide. While some celebrated Syria's progress as a historic milestone for humanity, other countries viewed the race to understand the signal with growing concern. Tensions among world powers increased as the technological competition intensified. World leaders convened emergency meetings to discuss the best approach to the situation. The race to decipher the message became increasingly fierce, with accusations of scientific espionage and data manipulation arising among rival nations. Strategic alliances formed and dissolved in an instant as each country fought to secure a leadership position on the global stage. Amid this geopolitical chaos, the scientists in Syria continued working tirelessly to unravel the extraterrestrial message. Each breakthrough brought them a step closer to fully understanding the signal, but it also increased the pressure on their shoulders. They knew that humanity's fate depended on their ability to decode the message and establish meaningful communication with the civilization behind it. Meanwhile, in the streets of Syria's cities and in living rooms around the world, the tension was palpable. Humanity stood on the brink of a discovery that would forever change its understanding of the universe and its place in it. The stakes had never been higher, and the world awaited with bated breath as the fate of humanity hung in the balance of knowledge and interstellar diplomacy. Chapter 3: The Final Warning. After years of waiting and anticipation, the response finally arrived. An alien signal was detected by Earth's receivers, confirming that communication had been established. However, what they discovered left the world stunned. The message was a warning, a grim tale of self-destruction from the extraterrestrial civilization that had sent it. It narrated how their society, in its insatiable quest for progress and technological growth, had exhausted all the resources of their planet. Now, in their final stage, their civilization faced imminent extinction. The communication began with a detailed account of their history. Much like humanity, they had achieved remarkable progress in space exploration and communications. However, their accelerated technological development was accompanied by unrestrained consumption of natural resources, environmental devastation, and internal conflicts over control of those resources. The message described how, despite early warnings and evident signs of collapse, their civilization continued down a path of unsustainable exploitation and growth. Cities became larger and more technologically advanced, but the cost was the depletion of their planet. Ecosystems collapsed, energy sources ran dry, and the climate became increasingly hostile. They reached a point where technology could no longer sustain their way of life. Attempts to seek help from other civilizations had failed, and every advancement only hastened their decline. Thus, they decided not to share their technological knowledge with Earth, fearing that humanity would repeat their mistakes and reach the same fate even faster. The message went on to urge a change in humanity's mindset. They warned that, given Earth's current capability of intergalactic communication, its own extinction was not far off. The technology that enabled this communication was a sign that humanity was on a similar path to self-destruction. The extraterrestrials explained that they themselves had received a similar warning some time ago. Although they attempted to change their fate, their efforts were insufficient to reverse the damage already done. Now, they were sending this warning to Earth in the hope that humanity could learn from their mistakes and take a different path. The message concluded with an urgent call to action. They urged humanity to forward this warning to other civilizations that might be on a similar trajectory. More crucially, Earth needed to change its own fate quickly. Time was limited, and the future of humanity depended on its ability to adopt a sustainable and respectful way of life with its planet. As world leaders and scientists analyzed the message, the pressure on humanity increased. The nations of the world faced the necessity of profound and coordinated change, setting aside their differences to avoid the collapse described by the extraterrestrials. The message was not only a harbinger of the consequences of uncontrolled technological growth, but also an opportunity for humanity to rewrite its destiny. With this warning, Earth's fate was in the hands of its inhabitants, and the clock was ticking. The world stood on the brink of a new era. Humanity had to decide whether it would heed and act upon the warning received or follow the extraterrestrial civilization's path to self-destruction. The fate of Earth, and perhaps of other civilizations, hinged on this crucial choice. Chapter 4. The Race Against Time. After sending a desperate message to the extraterrestrials seeking more information and help, humanity waited in vain for years. No response came. World leaders continued their efforts to avoid the foretold fate, but time continued its relentless march. To try to prevent self-destruction, governments implemented a series of measures and controls. Stricter regulations were established on emissions, waste management, and natural resource conservation to address climate change and environmental degradation. Renewable energy usage was promoted through tax incentives and subsidies to reduce reliance on fossil fuels and mitigate climate change effects. Additionally, limitations were imposed on the consumption of natural resources like water and soil to curb overexploitation and environmental degradation. More stringent safety protocols were also established to control the development and use of nuclear and biological technologies to prevent global catastrophes. However, individual and competitive interests of companies and nations hampered progress. Companies continued to seek short-term profits, ignoring warnings about the long-term consequences of their actions. Nations feared losing their competitive edge against rivals and resisted implementing measures that might affect their economies. As time passed, signs of deterioration became increasingly evident. Extreme weather events became more frequent and intense, with heat waves, droughts, floods, and devastating hurricanes affecting regions worldwide. Natural resources like fresh water and food became scarcer due to overexploitation and pollution, leading to conflicts and massive population displacements. Deforestation, uncontrolled urbanization, and habitat pollution caused species extinctions at an alarming rate, severely impacting ecosystems and natural system stability. Moreover, the emergence of new diseases and the spread of pandemics became more common, exacerbated by urbanization, deforestation, and climate change, challenging healthcare systems' ability to respond. Despite efforts to control the situation, humanity seemed to be in a downward spiral towards self-destruction. Governments struggled to maintain order and stability as the signs of human decline became increasingly evident. As the years passed, despair and fear gripped the population, while the clock continued to tick inexorably towards an uncertain future. Chapter 5. The Collapse. Despite global efforts to change course, humanity found itself trapped in a race against time that it could not win. World leaders, besieged by political inertia and the resistance of powerful interests, failed to implement the necessary changes quickly enough. The extraterrestrials' predictions began to materialize at an alarming speed. Geopolitical tensions reached a critical point. Wars over scarce resources became inevitable, with nations clashing in brutal conflicts over the last reserves of water and food. Alliances crumbled, and the international order fragmented, plunging the world into a chaos of violence and despair. In cities, infrastructure began to fail. Power outages became routine, leaving millions of people in the dark. Water supply systems collapsed, and diseases spread rapidly in overcrowded urban areas. Hospitals, overwhelmed and with limited resources, could not cope with the influx of patients. The increasingly erratic and extreme climate added another layer of disaster to an already crumbling civilization. Monstrous hurricanes devastated coastal cities, while unprecedented wildfires ravaged entire regions. Prolonged droughts and sudden floods destroyed crops, leading to widespread famine. Amid this apocalypse, society began to disintegrate. Law and order vanished and communities split into warring factions. Looting and violence became the norm, and desperation led to unimaginable acts of barbarism. Humanity stood on the brink of extinction, facing not only environmental annihilation but also destruction at its own hands. In this desolate scenario, a small group of scientists and visionaries took refuge in an underground complex, determined to preserve what remained of civilization. They worked tirelessly to develop technologies that could reverse the damage, but they knew their chances were slim. Humanity had received its warning too late. The final signal from the extraterrestrials, detected in the twilight of human civilization, was a farewell message. There were no answers, no salvation. Only a distant echo from a civilization that had walked the same path of self-destruction. As the last lights of civilization dimmed, humanity's fate was sealed. Let us always remember that the true strength of a civilization lies not in its ability to conquer new frontiers, but in its wisdom to care for and preserve its home. As the last lights of our society faded, we were left with a lesson etched in the wind, a warning that, although it came too late, bore an undeniable truth. In the remnants of a devastated world, the legacy of our insatiable quest for progress stands as a silent testament.